We're going to draw inspiration from over 7 worship bands and leaders who have going to join us today with musical performances from around the world. We're going to have really a lot of fun today. We're starting here. It's 8:30 a.m. in Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to bring on a good friend of mine, Jeffrey Fitzgerald, who is an Emmy award-winning producer and is very involved in the worship community where he lives. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun today. You're going to learn from many, many experts. You can go to worshipsummit.live to gain access to a couple different important things throughout this live stream. One of them is the Zoom video conference call. That is a breakout session that you can join, and you can speak directly to our expert panelists. So you can get one-on-one contact with them. You do need to have a ticket from Eventbrite in order to get access to the password to that Zoom conference. Why do we have a password on the Zoom conference? Well, you'll learn in this conference today, and actually in my session, why it's so important to have passwords on Zoom video conference calls so that we do not have any issues with people Zoom bombing our conference, possibly with inappropriate content. So it's good to have a little bit of control. And so you can join that Zoom conference with the password provided to you via email. If you did not get that password, reach out to Tess Protesto, who is in the chat room, my trusty co-host, who is not here, working from home out of an abundance of caution during the COVID-19 outbreak here in the United States of America. So the one last thing is that there is a giveaway going on. So you can enter to win a PTZOptics camera for your church, any PTZOptics camera that you think would be best for your church. So check out PTZOptics.com and think about which one your church could best use. If you're a small church or a big church, depending on what you might need. You can enter to win at worshipsummit.live, and you must be watching live to claim your prize. So when we draw the winner, if you're not here, we will draw another winner so that the person who is here will win. So with that being said, I'd like to bring on Jeffrey Fitzgerald, a good friend of mine, Emmy award-winning producer, to tell us a little bit about video communications and live streaming and what that means for houses of worship in the modern age. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, good morning. It is awesome to be with you as always. And I for the Chroma Key today, I wanted to put myself back into church, and so that's what we're doing. So,
well, thank you so much for being here today. You were here for our first worship summit, and now here we are again. What has changed over the past, 3-4 months as far as how it is so important to be using video communications in your house of worship?
oh, absolutely. That's where you and I really started connecting over the live streams. We've known each other before that, but, I came to you and I said, hey, our small church, 60, 70 people, we've got the bug now to do live streams. I've been in it for a number of years, but, getting people to move towards something digital in a terrestrial world sometimes is really challenging. And some people definitely had the vision. It may be familiar in your church. And we decided it was time to make that move. And I actually produced a video for PTZOptics about that experience. And I don't know, do you want to show that, or you want to just put that in the chat, or?
Yeah, let's show that video. Mike, at the very bottom of our conference is called TVH for the Victory House. There's a video. It's a 2-minute video at the very bottom of our playlist. And we'll play that 2-minute video about, Jeff and his local church, the Victory House. And the pastor there, I would say, more technically apt than maybe some that I've worked with. Very motivated to create videos and share the message of God online. So it's definitely an inspirational video. If you find that, Mike, it says TVH at the very bottom. I just added it at the very, very bottom. All right, we're going to play this video.
This is why we pray. This is why we worship. This is why we come to the Lord, because there has to be a transaction from heaven. Hallelujah. The good news is that God began the transaction. You didn't. Hello, my name is Nick Kupolithis, lead pastor of the Victory House in Northern Virginia, and we are a church that is on a mission. We are passionate about reaching the world with the life-changing message of Jesus, and we see the incredible opportunity that live stream brings to our message. As a content creator myself, with over 100 videos posted to YouTube, I believe that quality, efficiency, and clarity are vital to communicating effectively. As a pastor, integrating these characteristics into our church system was so important. PTZOptics then became the only system that we wanted to choose, and really for 3 reasons. Number 1, ease of use. Pastor, you know how hard it is to get volunteers and then train them effectively to run your technology. This is why I love PTZOptics. One person can now control multiple cameras. Number 2, image resolution. PTZOptics produces quality content. Doesn't look like a webcam, doesn't look like a fisheye, and this complements the life-changing message with visuals that are pleasing aesthetically to the eye. Number 3 is the size of the system, value without complexity. Not only can one volunteer control multiple cameras, but I can take this camera and I can put it on a wall, I can put it on a ledge, and I can maximize the space where we're having service. It's a wonderful benefit to PTZOptics. The Victory House is reaching the world with the life-changing message of Jesus Christ. Thank you to PTZOptics for your ease and innovation, empowering us to fulfill this mission.
Wow.
Well, Paul, Nick is a little more versed than some people. He didn't learn video in a week or two. Nick has been working his own YouTube channel for a while, caught the bug, and I have been just absolutely proud of him. He has done so well, and much of this, the overwhelming amount of this on his own. He's really connected with the idea that, the world we're in right now, especially in the moment we're in, with people being homebound, and just the fact that everybody's now digital. I mean, this potentially creates the greatest opportunity we've ever seen to really have people slow down a little bit without life and work balance being that wonderful catchphrase we use, and really begin to think about the bigger things in life and the bigger meaning of life. And so for TVH and other churches who are being able to get that message out there and just get their own identity out there, I think it's critical.
So what's it been like? It's been about maybe 2-3 months, maybe 6 months since they've had this system in place. They're obviously ahead of the curve now that it's so critical to have communications available for pastors. Has he been using it throughout the past couple weeks? What has it been like learning the learning curve and getting the message out there when it's so important, like right now?
Yeah, it's wonderful to watch this, take shape. I provided the training using streaming tools. There's a number out there. There's vMix, which is awesome. I'm a big Wirecast fan. I do a show every week called On Social, and got them into the kind of the mode of how it's used. We have a couple folks who are really gifted and really wanting to own this, and it has been really, really good. It has been awesome for me to see how well our message is translating from what you hear inside the walls of the church to now being outside the walls. And I know that Nick has plans for this in the future, and this is something I was going to talk about too, which is, things are bigger, messages are bigger than just the preaching in the pulpit. And there's so many opportunities now, especially with everybody looking to absorb great messages and great content. Everything from, I've heard of churches doing theater in the home where they've written scripts for the kids, and they're even in different locations using Zoom and other tools like that to still do some form of what they like to do. And of course, everybody loves it. And even things like late night conversations and discussions, which I'm a big fan of. I'm a night owl, and I think those things sometimes could even be really powerful, just to do something outside the box a little bit that gives people an opportunity to interact and have a conversation.
Yeah, we've just yesterday we were talking to many different worship leaders who are figuring out how are they going to produce these shows, and especially when it's just maybe one single pastor, maybe a small worship team helping him. And a couple of things that were interesting yesterday we were talking about is that one church is actually doing choir through Zoom. So everyone is singing together. Each one of the choir members is wearing headphones. And they say that there's some ways to make it work. I mean, obviously it's not as good as being in person, but it was such a great use of the technology. really made me say, wow, this is incredible.
It's unbelievable what people will do in a moment when they're like, you know what, we're going to throw aside perfection. We're not going to be amateur, but we're going to get something out no matter what. And consistency is key. You hear that across the board in every kind of production, and it certainly doesn't change here inside the walls of the church. And yeah, the singing thing is amazing. People are off a little bit when they're wiggling, and the sound may not be perfect, but guess what? That's what it sounds like when you're in church anyway, right? I mean, it's the whole, we're not doing this for ourselves. We're not doing it to do a Broadway, play, so to speak. It's really for the fact that we want to give God some thanks and praise for the fact that even in this moment, as difficult as it is, we're still here and we're going to make it. And there is another sunshine ray on the other side of all this. And I think that the singing part of it is really where it's key. And you're seeing this all over the place where people are doing incredible things with it.
Yeah, and I did want to say hi to everybody who's joining. We're here watching you guys. Hi, Joey from the UK, Peter from Phoenix, Arizona. We have people from all over. Philip from Nashville, Nassau Catholic from the Bahamas, Going Places with Jesus Ministries in Florida, Tom Barber from South California, early there. Thanks for joining. Dylan Wood from Branton, Ontario. We've got Tim from Kernsville, North Carolina, Guitar Pixie from Cambridge, Ontario. We've got Tag from Mason, Ohio. Red Kite coming in all the way from the UK. Lindsay Freund from South Australia. Thank you so much, everybody. VL Chip from Winter Haven, Florida. We could go on and on. I just wanted to recognize a couple people there. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. If you have any questions for Jeffrey, we've got him for about another 20 minutes. Something interesting that came up in our conversations yesterday, let's not lose our little cloud, our countdown cloud. Sorry, I lost that. Is that some worship leaders are trying to control the cameras remotely because they cannot make it into church, or maybe it's not even recommended that they go to church. And I wanted to mention that you can control PTZOptics cameras from anywhere in the world. And Jeff, you were telling me about a situation. You were asking some questions. How do we do this? Was there a church that was trying to do that you were working with as well?
Yeah, I do a lot of consulting. My primary work is pretty much in the marketing and media space, and doing PSAs and a lot of broadcasts, but a lot of live streaming as well. And especially now, there's been a lot of churches coming forward saying, hey, we're trying to get into this. What do we do? Obviously, with many states putting in the lockdowns and the stay-in-home orders, this really presents a challenge. And as people of faith, we want to represent ourselves well within our community, and we do not want to be breaking those rules because they're important. And having the ability to use the technology remotely is a no-brainer anyway, because this not only in a moment like this creates the ability to still produce fairly strong content, every bit as good as it would be if you're in the room, but it also gives you the ability to have a guide with you that may be outside your building. So on Sunday morning, if you're having trouble, there's somebody who can speak in your ear, and not just with only the cameras, which are incredible to be able to have that public IP address to be able to control, but it really gives an opportunity for kind of a global tech team, if you will, in some ways. And it works flawlessly.
Yeah, there's a lot of great technology out there for having a global tech team. There's cloud-based streaming solutions where you can have social media teams from all around the world posting snippets to Twitter and Facebook, having people switch in the cloud. And then one thing a lot of churches, I think, have been interested in is the USB versions of PTZOptics cameras can be controlled through Zoom. So if you're doing a Zoom conference and you're hosting your church that way, which is interesting because you can have 300 families on a regular Zoom Pro license, you can have your worship leader right-click the camera and request camera control and have full control of a 20x camera where they can zoom in and remotely be that camera operator even without coming into the church. Again, I want to just keep saying hi to everybody. Hi, Darren from Indiana. Hi, Oswald from the UK. We have John from Warsaw, Poland joining us. We've got Tucky from Minneapolis. We've got Pasadena Assembly of God from Maryland. Mike coming in from South Carolina. Greg from Pottsville, Arizona. Eduardo from Silver Spring, Maryland. Michael from Waco, Texas. Jim coming in from Warrensville, Illinois. Dear Paul 24 from the Philippines. Derek coming in from Easley, South Carolina. Thank you guys all so much for coming up. Someone here, I saw Scotland. Where do you get the Zoom password? Wanted to briefly touch on this. Our Zoom is locked. There's a password on the breakout sessions. And it's something that I'm really encouraging churches to do, because there's a lot of stuff in the news right now, random people joining Zoom calls, sharing inappropriate things. So we have a password. You must get the Eventbrite ticket, the official ticket to Worship Summit Live, to get that emailed to you. If you did not get it, you can email tess.protesto@ptzoptics.com or message her in the chat. She'll share with you that password, but we're trying to stay secure. This is a little bit of a public event, and you kind of never know. And worship services are public events too. And it's something I want to talk about: security, privacy, and streaming. And we're going to talk about that today. So we're all going to learn more, but it's true. There is a Zoom password.
Yeah, you know, you're so right about that. We don't even think about the idea of digital church security, but it's like everything. You want to protect the flock, you want to protect the messages that are going out. And certainly, there's no trolls on the internet, right? I mean, obviously you need to be aware of those kind of things and have people in place that can not only, monitor those things, but really take ownership of the chat when a live video is playing, and really interact with people. Because the mistake people make so many times with online video when they're not familiar with it is or this is like back in the days of when the web came out. We're just going to make a brochure and put it online, and there'll be millions of people flock to us. And humans don't work that way. We're looking for human to human interaction. And when you can bridge that gap and really show somebody that you're not only there for them, but you really care about them, great things happen, right?
Yes, 100%. And I totally agree that really having somebody on social media is key if you're going to do this for streaming, the side of streaming. On the side of Zoom, listening to the audience is key too. And it's interesting. In my presentation today, we're going to talk about the difference between the one-way broadcast, which has huge scalability, maximum exposure. But if you're going to do that, say hi. Hi, I can't even pronounce your name. Sorry, Nylan from Denmark. We've got Cheryl joining us from Southern California. Remember, is it 5 something a.m. in Southern California? Thank you for waking up so early. So many great people here joining. So obviously on the live stream, we want to be part of this chat and say hi to everyone. We're probably going to have more people watching the live stream than we could even fit in a normal Zoom conference, and really realistically have a productive conversation with that many people. But for a smaller church with less than 200 families, I do believe that having a Zoom conference going is of more value in certain ways, with the interactivity before, a little bit during, and also definitely after the service, where now families can come together, they can see each other, bridge the fellowship in a way that I think is a little bit more interactive and immersive than a one-way live stream broadcast.
There's no doubt about it. And so, we're talking about what the great benefits are. We know that in this moment, with COVID, that one of the things you really got to be careful of in terms of your content is that you want to make sure and ensure that your messaging is not pre-canned inspiration, for lack of better verbiage. There was a movie years ago about the Brady Bunch, and it was basically one scene that stuck out to me was, Mike was standing in the front of the artificial lawn with his coffee cup in the morning, like everything was great, and the neighborhood around him had been graffitied and run down, and the world was hurting around him. We do not want to look like that in the eyes of what we're all dealing with. This is massive, and it is terribly important that we're authentic and that the messages match the moment. And so, having said that, where the benefits are, what that content should be representing, and some of the options for that, how do you get into it? So, Paul, I wanted to just take a second here and really kind of address, where do you start in all of this? And the thing I'm seeing more than anything in the churches that I'm working with is that, a leadership team really needs to get control of their tech situation. And what I mean by that is everybody has an opinion on how it's going to be done. Every one of us have favorite tools, favorite apps, favorite processes and workflows. Some of us have experience, some of us have more or less than others. And what is happening, especially in one of the bigger churches that I'm talking to right now, is I know there's a lot of chaos, and it's not intentional chaos, but it's true chaos because everyone has a direction, and it's like everybody's standing around with that golden map, and there's 5 different directions away from where they're at, and it's like we go here, no, we got to go there, and it doesn't work that way. So you need to find somebody who can give you good guidance, strong guidance, who knows what they're talking about, and then assign them in a core team really that role and let them take it and run with it, even if they might want to use one tool over another that you may not be familiar with. And what that will do is it'll get you out there faster. There'll be at least a cohesive thought behind it, and there'll be some vision behind it. But Paul, I feel like that's one of the big things right now that churches are really struggling with, because they know they're failing somewhere in the process and they don't really know where it is. And, obviously there's in every church somebody who's, saying I can do this, but sometimes they can and sometimes they can't. And you really got to kind of figure out where that golden path is.
I agree completely. So many people joining. I'm just getting so excited, Jeffrey. We have been working on this for a long, long time, trying to help churches live stream. And I wanted to take a moment to recommend my book, Helping Your Church Live Stream. This was published in 2019, updated 6 months later. And it's something that we are willing to ship to your church for free. So in this time of crisis, we were soul searching, saying, what can we do? It's very difficult with something so mass spread. What can we do as a company? Zoom video conferencing ended up giving their service for free in China during the outbreak, and then also giving all of the education, the K through 12 education, Zoom for free. Very inspired by Eric Yuan's measures there and what he did. And so we talked about it. And so we're willing to ship this book, Helping Your Church Live Stream, to you for free via Amazon. So you'll get it in 2 days on worshipsummit.live. You can request this book. We'll ship it to you for free. And I also want to thank our VIP members. You know who you are. Our VIP members who purchased the VIP tickets on Eventbrite. Not only did they get a copy of Helping Your Church live stream, but they also got a copy of Dr. Barry Hill's book, Mixing for God. And that book is an amazing, well thought out book from a doctor who is the professor of audio engineering at Lebanon Valley College. He'll be coming on in just about 11 minutes. His presentation at Worship Summit, our very first one, was so popular, it was syndicated with churchleaders.com and many other organizations. And I know it's so important to get audio right. And today I asked him, hey, can you really give us the basics? He went a little in over my head, I'd say, with audio last time. So today he's going to go back to the basics with us. And his presentation is, how do you spell EQ? So he's funny. He's smart. And for the VIP members, you're going to get a copy of his book, Mixing for God. It's a great complement to Helping Your Church live stream, because this book really talks about accepting donations online, building your media ministry, how to work with volunteers, how to build an IP networking system, which we'll talk about in our presentation today. But his book cannot be replaced. There's nothing else like it in the world. If you're doing audio and trying to volunteer at your church with all those microphones and things of that nature, well, then pick up the book. Whoops.
Hey, this is what live video is all about, right? I think, this is a perfect moment to talk about the fact again that, perfection is not the key here. Being human is the key. And it reminds me of, the video that came out a year or two back when there was a gentleman from England being interviewed, and his, babies came in the room, the maid came in the room, and the dog and all these things. There are places for that in casual conversation, but as a church who's really putting themselves out there and really keying in on that message, making sure that you are in a moment where you can, speak clearly and effectively, and you've got your distractions put away, that kind of thing is going to be key for you in that. And one of the things I think is really key, Paul, too, that we don't talk a lot about, but, today, 85% of video on Facebook is watched without sound. And there's even something, I call the scroll view, where there's even something you may like and you're still scrolling while you're trying to watch it. Ask for full screen from your congregation at the beginning, maybe even put up a lower that says, hey, make this your only item you're going to watch, because we all know you compete with everything above and below you in your timeline. And so I think that's actually pretty key. And, moving on from just the messaging, like what you and I are doing, having a great conversation, there are some really, really strong tools that you can use if you want to get to the place where you want to do multi-guest interviews. And that's the typical two-box type of thing like you're seeing now. You and I are using vMix in this moment, very strong professional piece of software. Wirecast does the same thing. There are other apps and certainly switchers available that can do that. But if you want to start and you don't have the hardware, there are ways you can do that with sites like B.Live, which is a great one that will let you get in very quickly and use a web-based interface to control this, have your guest come in, bring up some titles and things. StreamYard is another great one. It's newer. A lot of people love it. It kind of reminds me of Blab, one of the old platforms from 5 years ago with the way they've got it laid out. It's also really strong. And of course, we talked about Zoom if you want to keep things private and it's not so much on Facebook in a certain way. If it's maybe more of a discussion internal, that kind of thing, there's a place for that. And then if you really want to go to that big next level and you're one of these churches that see the ability that you want to reach the world as we're doing right now, there's a great piece of software and hardware that comes from neuralnet.com. And this is a program that's called Live to Air. It runs on Windows, and it gives you the ability to bring in anywhere from 4 to 48 people, dropping them right into your streaming software, right where you want them. And it's much more elaborate. It is I think of it as very much a broadcast tool, but it is incredible, and it's actually affordable. And so check neuralnet.com out for that kind of technology. But wherever you start, I mean, Paul, as we wrap this up, there's no doubt about it. We think about, the good word says, go out into all the world and preach the gospel. Well, you and I right now are actually doing that. You've got friends from Denmark and South Africa and Australia and everywhere else in between right now. We're actually in a moment unlike any other in the history of the world. And it's not only challenging, but it is incredibly exciting. And you just have to take that step forward. And what do? You got to walk in faith, right?
That's right. Thank you so much for being here, Jeffrey. You are the best. It is time for us to kick this summit off with an amazing musical performance from the Tanglewood Church. Let's roll it, Michael. I cannot wait. Please worship with us. This is going to be so much fun, everybody. Barry Hill will be up next. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. This is going to be so much fun. The Tanglewood Church. Here we go.